This is the last video we're doing today. Hope you're fine, guys. So it's around 9:39 p.m. and let's get deep into this. We have to do it because now time does not wait, and goals too have to be achieved, right? So Life Saga TV brings to you another analysis of the dictators in Africa. Yeah, democracy frustrated at its best. Now, sometimes we talk about democracy as if it's groundnuts we are swallowing or something like that. But in Africa, democracy sometimes just becomes a word to use, to prove that we are doing well and maybe get some donations or rather support from developed nations or rather the UN. But the reality is that most of the African nations are still practicing a lot of dictatorship. When someone takes over power, they decide to use it as a tool to fight enemies, to revenge, to frustrate those who are standing, to question, and to silence those who are talking too much. So you find that journalists cannot actually have the freedom they deserve. The police are dictated or rather told what to do, and they follow the orders because they are following their commander-in-chief, right? You find that things to do with the joblessness are looming, and when questions are asked, then somebody says, why not? Why wouldn't you have asked so and so? And they go ahead and say that you should keep quiet, you can't tell me what to do. Such things happen all the time. But then we have the worst of dictatorial nations, and all of us should know. If we don't know, we don't know. But meanwhile, do you know that Fahma Abdallah is now the IEBC vice chair? Did you know? Fahma Abdallah, hey, IEBC vice chair. So that is IBC for you, of course, with a lot of people asking questions here and there. But then let's get to our script of the dictators in Kenya. Yeah, not in Kenya, actually. Why am I saying Kenya? The dictators in the world that frustrate democracy, guys. Yeah. So, welcome on board, and you can actually give a shout out to your name so that we dive into this discussion tonight. Thank you so much. I've already seen some 2 people on the board. Welcome and feel free to be here. Oh my goodness. I have to check on something here, some receipt, and that's why I'm actually perusing around, So if the word dictatorship comes to your mind, what do you think about? So if you void 20, you are new here. Thank you so much. Welcome on board. And you can actually contribute. Hi, I hope you're fine. I hope you're fine. So when we talk about dictatorship, what do we mean? As I've said, a lot of African leaders are dictatorial, either in their mind or in their deeds. But then we have the real dictators of Africa, and all of us, I think somewhat we know. You avoid saying, I am. You're fine? All right, thank you so much. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing because that is the support I really look forward to. And also like my video. Give me a like, don't go without, because actually when we have a live, a like is indeed appreciated. So you void. What's up? What's up? Did you say you're a dictator or did you say you're fine? That's what I wanted to understand. All right, so let's dive into the dictators of Africa. And I would wish maybe you type and say something. Thank you so much, Void. Thank you so much. So the rest of us who are on board, actually stick here and contribute toward the topic because it really gets warm, however cold it is, when you stick around and share your ideologies about the topic under discussion. So whom do you think are the greatest dictators of Africa, at large? When it comes to mentioning dictators, what comes to your mind? Do you have a specific name you can give and why, So let's gather here as I get to the script of today on dictatorial leadership. So the dynastities, I don't know how many of you have read a book known as Fathers of Nations, you know, that book tells us about dictatorial leadership. And we have people like Dibonso, we have, you know, we have so many presidents that are indicated as dynasties that actually have possessed leadership and they don't want to go anywhere. And it's not for 5 years or 10, not even for 20 years, for more than that, guys. So that is what we are here to talk about, the dictatorial ruling drama, right? That's what we have in Africa. And unfortunately, maybe some people would say that it should go on, but I don't feel like it should. So let's get to see this. Let me show you what I believe, or the people I believe are dictatorial here. I'm beginning with first. Of course, we had Paul Kagame at once, you know, and Idi Amin, you know. Then we had Apollo Milton. Then guess who came next? He did not want to get out of leadership, and there he is, still up to today. You know? That is Museveni, Yoweri, for you. Somebody wrote a book about him known as sowing mustard seed. I don't know which seed Yoweri Kaguta would be sowing, you know. He talks about you shouldn't be so much in leadership like Kagame. And he says that if you want to be a leader in Uganda, go to the bush, you know. That's what he tells those who come by wanting to take over power. He says that he grabbed leadership by the sword, so people should also do the same. Go to the bush and grab leadership from there. So, do you know how many years Museveni has been in leadership in Uganda? Tell us if you know anything about that, you know. How many years has he been there? And maybe you can go to the aspect of he was born 15th September 1944. Yeah. Then he used military ways to take over power in Uganda from Apollo Milton Obote. That is 29th January 1986, right? How many years are those? Rono Hillary, hi, how are you? Welcome on board. You can give me a like, actually. You are the second top fan after Void 20. And I really appreciate your presence. I don't know if you have subscribed to the channel. You can actually take a moment and subscribe to the channel. Also like the video and share my videos anytime you find time, because that is greatest support that I really appreciate from you. So guys, you understand that story, right? That is history for you. 1986, you know. And we are almost heading to 2026. So how many years are those? And Museveni is there. And of course, to your surprise, he's going to run for the presidential seat again. And he says Ugandans urge him to do so. Do you believe the story? Okay, that is Museveni. Now, who is the second that I want to talk about here? Who is the second president? You know? Do you know Ivory Coast? Ivory Coast, guys. Let's get to see the president of Ivory Coast. If you know, you know. Yeah? This is the president of Ivory Coast. Let me show you. Here he is. President Alassane Ouattara. President Alassane Ouattara. That is Ivory Coast for you. And this is a leader that has been there for a while. Can somebody type there maybe how many years you know President Alassane has been in leadership, you know? Anybody who knows that, I'm waiting for you to type. Oh, nobody's typing that. The guy is 83 years, so can you guess when he was born? 83 years by now, right? Alassane Ouattara, the president of Ivory Coast, or rather Cote d'Ivoire. Do they read it as that? Or rather pronounce, not actually reading. So he was born 1st January 1942. Right? That is Alassane Ouattara from Ivory Coast. And his health has been very questionable, just like, is it Dibonso in Fathers of Nation, or is it, one of the presidents again. And here he is. He wants to vie again for the presidential seat in the next elections, guys. So even in 83 years, he feels so young. He wants to be the president. You know, that is Africa for you. The third dictator. The third. Do you know the president of Cameroon? Rono Hillary says, maybe my comments regarding Museveni is that he is managed to stabilize Uganda after successful coup d'etat. In fact, he has set a standard, and I believe if it changes democracy, I believe it can work. I don't know. I'm not so sure, because when you go to Uganda, of course, if you compare to the past leadership from Idi Amin to, from Kagame to Idi Amin to Apollo, and then him, of course, you may say he has stabilized. But then, does that qualify him to keep sitting on the seat, you know? Does that qualify him to say that any other person who wants to win should go to the bush so that they can win? Some people say that he was waiting for his son to grow so that he can take over leadership. But of course, the son has grown up and is proving to be just another Museveni in his actions, you know? Remember, was it last year that he proved that he would invade Kenya? And of course, this year, we've heard that during the demonstrations, Sabasaba demonstrations, he released some of the armies from Uganda to invade Kenya and help President Ruto. I don't know how true that is. All right. So we appreciate your contribution, Rono, because here in the political analysis, we accept all kind of comments. Now, Cameroon. Anybody who knows the president of Cameroon, raise your hand and drop a comment there. Anybody? I'm waiting. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Nobody has dropped a comment. So Cameroon, Vana Baba Cameroon. You know, there is a lot of good music from Cameroon. The president of Cameroon is 92 years old. Here he is. That is the man behind Cameroon. Paul Biya. Yeah? Paul Biya. If you know, you know. So, those are the presidents I consider as dictatorial, actually. Maybe people may believe they have stabilized their nations. And if the citizens really believe those are the best leaders, whom am I to question? But then, I'm just looking at the aspect of democracy. The fact that anybody can, multi-party can actually thrive in these countries. You know, recently I told you about Tanzania. And I think if you go to my videos, you can actually understand what the situation in Tanzania is if you compare to Kenya, guys. Yeah, so, of course, if you look at Cameroon, 92-year president, he announced just last Sunday that he will be seeking the 8th term in October elections. And the announcement goes against the speculation that he was very old and would be sick and wouldn't be going for anything, you know. The electoral process was not, was almost shutting down, or rather going down. And Paul Biya, 92 years, second longest serving president after Teodoro Obiang, if you understand history of the Equatorial Guinea, who has been sick abroad, talked. Yeah. In fact, there is a time people announced him dead if you have been online most of the time. And the government had to come out and deny those rumors, Yeah, so he has come out and he has promised that he's going to vie for the presidential seat, That he's so determined, and rest assured that he's still strong enough to lead the nation, whatever motivates him, But there are so many allegations of corruption and so much about him. But even with the clashes that have happened in Cameroon, he still stands and says he's going to vie for the presidential seat, So the violence that have existed with Boko Haram groups, which are based in the neighboring Nigeria, happening to invade Cameroon, Biya says that he has to go on as a president, So he cruised to victory in 2018, of course, with over 70% vote. So what's going to happen now? Of course, there were irregularities. The irregularities were there, and there was a low turnout of voters, because of the separatist and jihad violence going on in the area, The region had been threatened with a lot of democratic space shrinking, the shrinking democratic space there. And so he was accused of a lot of using mechanisms on the state capture and all that, And of course, remember, as I've told you, Ugandan Yoweri Museveni is seeking for the 7th, mark me, 7th term. Yeah, 7th term. Davis Meturi, welcome. Yesterday you were here. Thank you so much for showing up. So we are on this aspect of dictatorial. Rono Hillary says, I stand to support Kagame for the work he is doing. In fact, he is delivering development-wise. Hurin City and many others. All right. Thank you for the information. Thank you for that information. Now let's dive into some videos here about these leaders, And maybe I want you to see the international. People normally say the international journalists should not actually go dive into the politics of other nations. So here is what we were shown about Uganda. I've reversed the move. I've started with Uganda here. This is what we had to hear.
Gosh. Platform in the capital, Kampala, reportedly to block the opposition party from launching a protest campaign. On social media, opposition Bobi Wine condemned what he described as police double standards. He also voiced concern over the disappearance of his bodyguard, Eddie Mutwe, who he says was abducted a day earlier by men believed to be wearing special forces uniforms. Security forces in Uganda have repeatedly targeted the NUP, led by Wine, a musician turned politician. Police most recently raided the party's headquarters in February. Police said the party's planned campaign was illegal, claiming the decision to intervene was made in the interest of maintaining, quote, public order. The campaign, according to the NUP, was aimed at rallying Ugandans, in particular the youth, to vote against the government and protest in defense of their democratic rights. Uganda is gearing up.
All right. So that's Uganda for you. Uganda for you. Bobi Wine, of course, has been hard. Besigye. Remember the entire of last year, Besigye was in for it, And
Cameroon's 92-year-old President Paul Biya.
He was quite molested here and there, and that's Uganda for you. And of course, when Museveni stands, he just laughs and says, I've managed to stabilize a lot in this country. And if somebody wants to get there, they should go to the bush, Unfortunately, when you go to Uganda, of course, they may have a lot of food and what have you, but when you come to matters like freedom of expression, even literacy levels, there is some sort of development that it's a bit low. But they are lucky that they have a lot of food, a lot, grains and bananas, fruits. They have a lot. And the prices of goods there are a bit low when you compare to Kenya, save for their currency that is low. I don't know why. I don't know. Because when I look at what is happening, for example, in Kenya, then I wonder why their coin, the Uganda coin, is that low. What determines? Maybe somebody can inform me, make me aware. I don't know. Hillary, do you know anything about that? Why the Ugandan currency is still lower than even Kenya? Davis Mutwiri also. Maybe do you know anything about that? Okay. So let's get to Cameroon. Cameroon. I told you that I'm going to go for reverse. So Cameroon. This is the international news
he
about
will
this.
seek an 8th term in power. Elections are scheduled for October. Biya's decision to stand comes amid speculation that he would not run. He's had frequent health problems and spends much of his time abroad. In a post on social media, Biya promised the best is yet to come. He is Africa's second longest serving president, having first come to power in 1982. Well, let's get more on this now from DW correspondent Blaise Ion in Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé. Blaise, Cameroon's median age is 18. How have people there been reacting to the announcement by the country's 92-year-old leader that he wants to continue in office?
Well, in Cameroon, a lot of people were not surprised by the news that Mr. Biya wants to run for another 7-year term as the president of Cameroon. In the last couple of weeks and months, and even from last year, members of his party have openly said they want Biya to stand as their candidate for this year's elections. And so for some social media users, as you've mentioned, a lot of the population in Cameroon is on. So a lot of young people went to TikTok, on Twitter, on Facebook, and they were just making funny videos about Mr. Biya's announcement. But it didn't come as a surprise to the nation because everyone had already concluded that he probably wants to run, and he just made that announcement yesterday.
Oh my God.
Now, Paul Biya has been in power since 1982. Is nobody in Cameroon capable of challenging him for the presidency?
Look at that.
Analysts would say that Mr. Biya has made it increasingly difficult for anybody to challenge him. Just recently, 2 of his ministers, in a very rare outing, resigned and have said that they're going to run against Biya this time around. But you have, in the past, a lot of members of the opposition have not been allowed to have sometimes rallies.
So you see, that is a suffocated system whereby the opposition have no space. No wonder even if you vie, you wouldn't get anywhere, You wouldn't get anywhere. So you see the situation of Cameroon is whereby people are frustrated until they don't even believe in themselves. So the young people went to TikTok and whatever and made funny videos. But as you can hear from the correspondent, it was not unexpected that he would actually be running for the presidential seat. And people are actually suffocated that they can't run against him. Now,
concerns, haunted by 2 elections that sparked 2 civil wars, they say they're left with scars that won't heal. For Angela, it's the memory of children with guns manning the streets. For Ali, it's holding his wife's blood-soaked body and watching her die. For Tatiana, it's the sexual abuse by men that broke young girls like her into silence. Another presidential election is looming, and fear is creeping in again.
During elections, we're afraid that the events of the past will happen again. We tell ourselves people will attack us again. We're scared. We have nightmares.
When I sleep, I think about it, and I'm afraid for my children and my grandchildren.
All we want is an election with no war, no cheating, no violence. A transparent election.
One after the other, presidential hopefuls for October's elections are being disqualified from a race that hasn't even started. Opposition leader Tijan Tiam has been barred over citizenship issues. Ex-President Laurent Gbagbo has been blocked by the courts. Guillaume Soro is still in exile. And Charles Blé Goudet has been acquitted at the International Criminal Court in The Hague from crimes committed during the Civil War, but charged at home. A narrowing field of candidates and growing tension. A coalition of the opposition is getting ready to protest, ruffling the feathers of a post-Civil War peace that never quite settled.
They are preventing me from running because they're afraid. They know I'm popular. It's unfair. We want the government to allow those eligible to make the choice of their representative. This is not democratic.
On his third mandate, 83-year-old President Alassane Ouattara has not made his intention to take part in October's ballot clear. 3,000 died and hundreds of thousands of people were displaced during past civil wars triggered by disputed presidential elections. For those who survived, a song about a dove that flies high in the air, reassuring in its presence.
Guys, so Ivory Coast is another country that has been frustrated by dictatorial leadership, with this 83-year-old president having actually frustrated the efforts of other people to vie in presidential seats. And if they try, they are frustrated, either arrested, charged with past civil case wars because of disputed elections that once brought down many lives, That is how the tingo goes, the political tingo goes, And that is how dictatorial leadership goes, yeah? So Ivory Coast has not stabilized. You can see a lot of fear, despair, and hopelessness. No wonder they feel helpless and they decide not to vie for positions. They would rather just sit at home and wait for the president to be announced. And if he is the old man, let him continue. That's what they opt for, than go protest or rather do anything. And in fact, if anybody insists, they are frustrated, yeah? Meanwhile, I hope that you are aware of the chaos that erupted in Limuru after deputy chief was accused of killing a suspected thief, These are things that happen in the country. Every minute there is bad news, Of course, I understand you know what happened in Nanyuki. Also know the lady Njoki who is walking naked in Nairobi around Cooperative Bank demanding for her 10 billion shilling that got lost from her account, Yeah, so let's get going. Of course, there is not much that we can talk about here, but what do you think motivates dictatorial leadership, What is the motivation behind this? Why do some leaders stick in leadership regardless of being so old, regardless of being ill, Does this mean they've conducted atrocities? They fear that once they relent power, then they are going to maybe face revenge, retaliation from the current leaders that will be taking over? Is it the fear of maybe what they have looted because of corrupt cases that stand before them? They fear that what they have looted would be taken from them? Is it the fear that somebody else will lead the same way they did and then they'll suffer in the hands of others what they have been doing? Is it out of the thought that they should rule until they die, they are waiting for natural attrition? So I don't actually understand why dictatorial leadership still is a major problem in the world, or rather Africa majorly, because regardless of how old somebody is, they wouldn't want to relent power. And even in countries where the constitution is working in democracy stated to be, somebody wouldn't want to lead for 5 years and leave if people are declaring them, dysfunctional. They hold on to power. So what actually motivates this? Is it because the people behind are supporting them and telling them to run again? These are the questions I keep asking myself all the time. And I would wish for the discussion over this. If people came and we really talked about this, I would feel so happy that I've got several people sharing their thoughts on what it is and what is not, So let's see here. I actually want to see some remarks from these guys. Here, Ivory.
Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara 9% at the end of this year and moving up, and especially the Liberation Day tariffs that came from the United States will be up to 8.
Where is he here?
And the following month, we will also have the country focus reports, and we dig deeper into
I wanted to have him speaking here. He gave some opening remarks a month ago. Yeah, here. But then they are not even showing him. Of course, this is a French-speaking nation.
A rouse of applause for Akin. Bravo à toi.
I don't know why it's not actually playing well.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. Merci à tous. Merci pour votre brillant discours et tous vos mots de remerciement pour chacun de nous. Ah bon, vous voulez baisser ça encore? C'est trop haut pour moi.
This must be Bangora actually.
Excellence, Monsieur Azali Assoumani, président de l'Union des Comores, chers frères, chers amis, Excellence, Monsieur John Dramani Mahama.
Yeah, so that is him for you, giving an opening remark in an African Development Bank meeting, and you can see he's struggling actually, but then that is it what it is, you know? It is what it is. Yeah. Now let's get to a video from Cameroon. Cameroon also, they speak a lot of French. Yeah, let's look at this one here. In fact, I already showed you something. Yeah. Short one for that case.
Whenever AI coding feels limited, you should.
Right.
So Cameroon's 92-year-old president.
I would also thank you warmly.
Here he is struggling to speak actually.
For initiating our gathering. It enables us to re-examine and easily accept our common history and to reassert our desire to rebuild our future.
Supporters celebrated Biya's 42 years in power with rallies and events.
The signs of President Biya's 42-year reign, who democratically opened up our country and promoted the ideals of national unity and prosperity.
Multiple opposition figures, including 2018 runner-up Maurice Kamto, as well as Joshua Osi, Akere Muna, and Cabral Libi, have also announced their candidacies. However, members of the governing Cameroon People's Democratic Movement and other supporters have since last year publicly called for Biya to seek another term.
Hey, here is Museveni actually.
The market there, he talked about household income, reducing borrowing, and also...
Where is he? Oh, I need that. That one is a noisy one. Museveni. I wish countries would now have the case of Taure, you know. someone who is really going in for change. And even if they really lead for long, but we are seeing that change, we would actually appreciate that the re-election is necessary, you know.
80-year-old President
Let's see what Museveni says here.
because of growing state repression. 6.
Let's see here. Yeah.
Yoweri Museveni's critics say he has ruled with an iron hand since he seized power as a rebel leader in 1986. He has won every election held since, and the Constitution has been amended twice to remove age and term limits to allow him remain in office. Pop star turned politician Bobi Wine is expected to be Museveni's main challenger in the election. Wine would run against Museveni if he was nominated by his party, the National Unity Platform.
It is what it is, guys. So that is a 33-minute video, a live stream that it actually explores into the dictatorial dynasties in Africa. We may have more, but currently, when I sat down and thought about the greatest dictators of Africa, those are the 3 that I found. I don't know what is your thought. You're free to give your comments, drop in the comment sections, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, because we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers actually, and I really appreciate your support. Your support is enough. Yeah, through subscription, watching the videos, dropping comments and sharing my videos to other people and exposing them to those who have not watched yet. Comment and actually give me a critique to make me better in this political analysis. Bye-bye. Let's meet tomorrow for more live streams on more political aspects, because every moment we have a lot coming in the house. Thank you. Adios.